Welcome to the channel, everybody. So, today we have yet another panel from Summonerfest. This one being the second Q&A panel from Summonerfest. You'll notice a bit of a difference, not only on what I was able to do, but also on the difference in how the panel went itself. One of the things that you'll definitely take notice of is the fact that obviously I have better camera angles. I was able to get in there a little bit early. I actually showed up on time for this panel, caught the entirety of it, and was there early enough that I was able to get a seat towards the front so that I could go ahead and make sure that I got good camera angles for all of it. And the audio should be a little better on this one than the previous panel as well. So I hope you do appreciate the fact that we got that I did a little better on this one than I did on the first one. And you can see, obviously, we're going to do some improvements in the future. I will say we'll have one more panel video left to come out, and then I'm going to do some interviews and then my final recap. Kind of debating on how I'm going to do the interviews. Most of them are rather short. There is one that is a bit longer that I'm really proud of, that I want to make sure that gets out in its entirety, and I don't know that I want to loop it together with the other ones. So we'll kind of play it by ear as far as that goes, but I'll revisit that over the next couple of days, as those will be coming out Tuesday for at least the first one, or at least the first group of them. I'm not quite for sure exactly how I want to do that. Like I said, I'll have this one out today, today as in Sunday. And then I will also have the final panel video, which is another one that I unfortunately made it to rather late. So I'm going to have to apologize on that one. As you saw in the last video, some of the times got rescheduled. But or as you'll see in this video, I take that back. So it is kind of a little hit or miss on some of this stuff. But this one is the one panel that you'll have in its entirety. This is also the one panel that all of us knew properly about. And this is the one where you'll see not only does Kabam Dragon have a stack of questions that we all prepared ahead of time in her hand from the beginning of this panel, but you'll also notice, and you'll hear her announce on a couple of occasions throughout the video, that there is pen and paper on the table, and there were several times that several of us, myself included, passed her additional questions during the panel. So you're going to get a little bit more out of this one than you did out of the last panel. We were a little bit more prepared for it. Kabam was definitely a lot more open for us, and I'm not saying that every question you guys could ever ask is going to get answered in this one, but it's going to be a bit more of a variety than you saw in the first Q&A panel. So, that being said, let's go ahead and get right in there and get started.
Systems and Champions. Hello, I am Twice Cooked Bread. I am a lead content designer on MCOC, and I work with this guy on a lot of stuff.
Hello, I'm Kevin. I'm a senior encounter designer. I've made Necropolis, Ares, Eternity of Pain, all that fun stuff.
Kevin is who you blame for using all your revives.
Hey everybody, I'm Kabam LF. I'm a producer on the live game, so game modes, events, that sort of thing.
Awesome, thank you guys. And I'm your facilitator, Kabam Dragon. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, I know a bunch of you were. So we're going to go through your full stack of questions, and we're going to do our best to answer them. I see Tyler lurking outside. No, okay, he doesn't have to come in. It's okay. He does, but he did a good Q&A yesterday, so we're going to leave him alone for today. All right, starting off from Lewis. Where are we at on the BG's roadmap? The only change so far in the last 6 to 8 months is the removal of the declining matches. What's the ETA on others?
Yeah, I can take some of that. So there's some things that are still in the works, but some things that we announced, I know John did a great job of putting together a big write-up. Obviously we had the early changes, and then we have what's known as mini BGs, or what we're calling in the game as unranked queue, is coming this season. So that's coming in the next couple of months. It's in this build. No definitive timelines, unfortunately, for the rest, but it is constantly being discussed and worked on. It is coming. We don't announce things that we don't intend to deliver upon. So unfortunately, it's not the most concrete answer, but it is coming soon.
I am very excited for Unranked Q for reasons I will not detail today. Over the years, we've been told, this is from Wolf, over the years we've been told things would never happen. Like an example, 6-star Wolverine. And then that does happen. Do you think those sorts of kind of walkbacks hurt some of the trust with the community?
I think cool. So specifically for the Wolverine example, his regen was kind of busted. And so, like, there was a lot of hesitation for us rolling him up at a higher rarity, just because of how powerful his healing was. But, you know, again, we sort of figured out, like, how we wanted to handle that from, like, the design side and got that rolled out. And I think it's a good thing that, like, we change our mind and, like, you know, take the feedback and respond to it. So, like, again, we do our best to be communicative and be transparent. And I don't think it's a ding. I think it's a good thing that, like, we do change our mind and do move on things that we said no to earlier.
So when is Quake coming?
We're talking about it.
I had to ask that question. It was required. So. All right, next is from Chris. What is the plan to improve anti-cheat primarily in BGs?
This is a hard one to talk about candidly, because anything anti-cheat related, if we tell you too much, it just helps cheaters cheat. But we do have a lot of tech in the works right now. I think like the really big one that's been getting a lot of headway is like fight replay, which is basically our ability to like play back a fight on our own servers with known good data and validate that it did go the way that it should have gone. We're working on that right now as sort of like one of our big anti-cheat initiatives. We have a whole bunch of other stuff that is also in the pipe, but like that's the one that is going to be impacting soonest. But yeah, like we take the competitive integrity of the game very seriously, and we are always working on it, but it is something that's hard to talk about in too much detail.
So what you're saying is I'm going to be able to watch myself get defeated not once, but twice with replay. Great. Love that. All right, this question comes from Darius. Kabam has said in the past that we don't have Mystique because you couldn't do it justice yet. Are there any other characters or mechanics you'd like to add but can't for tech reasons? With the follow-up of, are there any mechanics you'd like to add but haven't found the right character for?
Mind if I just go for this one?
Yeah, go.
I mean,
we could all say something, big wheel, but
yeah, big wheel. So for Mystique in particular, the challenge there is like to do like any sort of shapeshifter character justice. We have to be able to let them transform into a bunch of different characters, and there is obviously performance implications of having so many character models loaded into the fight. We've already sort of been pushing the envelope with having like, you know, we have like the 2 characters, the attacker and the defender, but we've also put in strikers, so now we're up to 4 characters. If we also throw in, oh, and now you can shapeshift into like N other characters on top, that's a whole lot of stuff to melt your phone. So we are talking about like, you know, future state for challenges like that. Another particular challenging one is quadrupeds. That is why you don't see 4-legged beasties in the game very often, because quadrupeds are very complicated to do. But yeah, like there's lots of cool things we'd want to do. But yeah, there's some tech challenges there. Anybody else want to?
I was going to say Cloak and Dagger. A lot of us want Cloak and Dagger.
No one
here working on this. Yeah, well, Cloak and Dagger. A lot of us want Cloak and Dagger. We're, you know, looking at stuff. No timeline for that, but yeah, there's interest.
Cloak and Dagger is super cool. I would love to see Cloak and Dagger in the game. All right, so I have to shout this one out. This is John F., who goes, when will Strange get his justice? Hashtag Justice for Strange. Are you excited if you are here? I hope you are, because of announcements that were made. So, had to shout that one out. I saw that question, and I was very excited about it. So, all right, next one comes from Chris. What is the Kabam perspective on how fun the game currently is? What are the plans to make this the top priority, or how can we as the community help?
I can speak to my own on that. I mean, so I'm involved in working in the Coliseum with Zen pretty closely, and the real goal, like I had pitching the Coliseum, was to create a space where ramp champs have a place to live that are not just when the Necropolis comes out every 3 years. It's, you know, fun is a variable definition by any number of players, but I think the more spaces we have for more different champion archetypes to exist and excel, the more we can create fun for different players in different ways.
Anyone else want to answer a bit of that?
I can share my opinion to some degree. I think the game is fun, but from my perspective as a designer as well, it's not just fun that we're aiming for, we're also aiming for satisfaction. And sometimes it's hard to have those two things at the same time. I always call it steak or cake. You know, you can either have this sweet, delicious thing, but if you ate it all the time, you get sick of it.
or you can have something that fills you and sustains you. And so sometimes you get something that is more aimed towards sustenance than fun, or cake. I don't know. I'm losing myself in my own.
I was just about to say, don't make me make the cake is a lie joke, because it's just sitting there waiting for me.
I didn't make you.
Yes, you did.
Anybody else?
No? Okay. All right, so very important question. Do you want to add all 80K Marvel characters to the game at some point?
Of course. No. Yeah.
Yes, but at our velocity of around 2 a month, it's going to take a little bit to get there.
Hey, DNA, how long would that take? 80K characters, 2 a month? How long would we be doing characters for?
40,000 months.
So many months.
That's mini months.
So yes, I think the answer is definitively yes.
Yeah.
And including all the ones we've talked about so far. All right, next question. Are there any plans to give the main player access to a creative mode where we can create unique nodes for tournament setups?
I can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that we're always kind of looking into. I can't say yes or no at this point for sure, but we are always exploring sort of game modes that give players more agency. You know, we have the raid test map essentially for players to try out new champions. We are always sort of exploring what players want to give more, to give players more agency in how they set up things. I know we haven't spoken too much about it, but Fortress Assault kind of leans into that as well. So we are exploring, constantly ways for players to be able to toy around with things, but no definitive answer right now.
All right, awesome. Since we are moving through questions at a decent clip, I'm just going to ask everyone to look at the table. You should see stacks of paper in the middle and pens. Please be kindergarten polite and pass those around. If you have questions you would like to answer or have asked in the room, we will collect those a handful of times as we go around. So we still have plenty to go through, though, I promise. All right, will there ever be another back issue? Hey, it's time.
Hello. That's what I was supposed to help on things.
Yes, come enjoy this.
Oh.
In a star in the middle.
Oh no.
Back issues. So, short answer, no, not right now. Don't expect new back issues anytime soon. Long answer is back issues sit in a weird place in the game. Everest content already, when we make it, it tends to age out in, I don't know, a year, depending on the pace of the game, sometimes less than that, where the rewards are no longer worth the effort for going into it. Back issues is kind of accelerated to that way. If we made a back issues that targeted like a progressing Valiant player right now, it would probably not be worth your time in like a year, and especially isn't worth any new players' time as they progress through, right? So it's a really tough value proposition a lot of the time to make a back issue. We recognize that like the design and idea of them appeal to a lot of players, and we're always trying new quest types to kind of capture that same magic, but in different ways. That's kind of in a way what the like Eternity of Fate stuff was looking to do, but in a much smaller scale. But back issues are not really on our docket right now.
Raise your hand if you did the OG variant one and suffered through all of that. I feel you. I feel your pain. All right, next question is more BG's focused. What is the thinking behind keeping Elder's Marks? Could we not have moved the system to energy entirely instead? Sorry, we're having a brief drink delivery. We want them to be able to keep answering questions.
So we did float that idea around. I think we might have even announced that that's what we were looking to do, was to move entirely to energy. The thought behind keeping Elder's Marks was based on feedback that we received. So it was in the plans initially, but yeah, based on feedback that we received, the decision was made to move, keep Elder's Marks for ranked queue and use energy exclusively as the unranked queue in the upcoming season.
All right, awesome. So game economy is talked about a lot in responses to players saying increased rewards in your game mode of choice. Last month there were a lot of R4s put out in deals, and we haven't quite seen that same velocity come through in content. Is that the intended balance, and are there any plans to change that going forward?
I can kind of field this one. I was going to say, like, partially touch on it. So we don't have any official representative from the economic side of the game. Like, I would trust Crash, or I don't remember the other gentleman's name to answer that definitively. But I can say that one of the reasons that we're doing Ascension Plus and Collectives is so that there are more things we can give. Mm-hmm. It's sort of a a double-edged sword where it's like, if there isn't enough cool things to give out, then we can't give them out that freely, you know? But if there are enough cool things to give out, then we can give them out more often. So to the fundamental concept of the economy, I cannot answer that with authority, but hopefully we can get some breathing room in the coming years.
We all want cool stuff. I know that's true. I've seen all of you at the wheel. We all want cool stuff. I know it. All right. What is the plan to improve collecting and implementing broad community feedback? I'd love to hear that from the perspective of kind of everybody regards to your positions.
Well, I do just want to say that, like, all of us as developers are constantly looking at community feedback. We're on Reddit, we're on the Discords, we're on the forums. We're always looking for, you know, how players are responding to the things that we're putting in the game. Are they enjoying them? What are their pain points? Those sorts of things. So I would just, like, again, encourage everybody to, again, be vocal. Tell us what you hate. Tell us what you love, so that we can keep moving in the game in a positive direction. We are listening, and, like, you know, we do care. So just, like, keep the feedback coming, and, like, you know, like, we are listening and engaging. So.
Second to that as well, I was reading Reddit all morning, and my health hasn't suffered that much, so that's a good sign. So far, people like the event.
Yay!
So my perspective is mine, not which is I've been making games for 20 years now, and so I've had a whole lot of time to interface with the notion of player feedback and what to do with it, I suppose. I'm losing my own thread. Give me all the feedback you can is my answer, because the more of it I have, the more I can parse what is actually desired, and what might be a reaction to something in the moment that you won't feel, kind of as Kevin put it, a year later in some cases. But don't be afraid to tell me if I got it wrong either. That's very important. But yeah, I implement feedback all the time on my team, just on a different time scale.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm known to be on Discord to a fault.
I feel that.
I'm all over on there. And so, like, I can say that, like, player sentiment and feedback and whatnot is directly given to people. That being said, it's a large ship that doesn't turn fast. So there can be, like, certain things get adjusted quick and then other things don't, and I can see a frustration on the don't. And for the most part, that is still, like, being as fast as we can respond to things, but not everything can be responded too fast. And that can be frustrating when there is such a divide between those two. Like, well, that got fixed this afternoon, and this other thing you're saying is getting fixed in maybe January. And, like, that's frustrating. And it's understandable to vent those frustrations, but just know that, like, it is heard and felt and seen throughout all of the things. And that being said, I'll just do a note in terms of player feedback. We are gentle, soft creatures, and compliments and praise work surprisingly well. It's an unnatural human thing to report back, like, by the way, today, everything was exactly fine. Like, that's a weird thing to do. But, like, for our team members, we pass around the little, like, tiny love notes of, like, this really hit home for me, or this was really fun. Like, that does change a developer's mood to have positive and negative feedback. So again, frustration's good, understandable, keep them coming, but, like, you can pepper a couple nice things in now and then, I'm just saying.
Yes, please be gentle to Tyler, but do not be gentle with me. I find
Warn me when you're going to say that.
People who are negative are generally closer to true honest, I find.
Yep.
Right? If I am angry, I'm telling you what I think. It might be what I think in that moment. So at least if you're talking to Brad, you can yell. That's fine. I will listen to what you actually mean. The funnier your insults are, the better. But anyways, sorry for stealing the mic.
Take note. Puns are welcome.
Yeah, I mean, speaking from the encounter side of things, we have the Act 9 betas, or, you know, story betas in general. We get a lot of feedback from those. A lot of that feedback is action. I hope it feels that way, at least, when we go from beta to launch, because there is a lot of feedback we get. We parse through it, you know, we apply it, we think about it, etc. And then just larger, like, you know, content stuff. I am usually reading a lot of stuff, like, being fully frank, if I was to do another piece of content like Wheel of Fate again, I would make a lot of changes. A lot of that is based off of external feedback. A lot of that is based off of internal feedback too. You know, there's things we could have done better. But you know, a lot of the time you don't learn that until you have such a massive group of people smashing into it. Like our internal team, I promise you we test stuff. But we are only so many people, and the number of like 20 people testing stuff versus like 20,000 people testing stuff will always reveal more information and more insight than this group can, even if we spent like 3 years doing it with that many people.
So what you're saying is the wheel will keep on turning.
Yes.
Wheel in sky.
So we use data and metrics to inform decisions when we're designing content or features, and I view community sentiment and feedback as another of those sort of metrics to use from. In that, the more we have, the like better complete we're able to make these decisions. It's harder to quantify, obviously, because it's not just ones and zeros. It's there's emotion tied behind it, and that can be harder to sort of parse. I think the community team do a really good job. We have monthly sentiment meetings with them, and they sort of quantify it for us. But just to sort of echo what everybody said, the more we have, the more honest it is, the better informed we can make our decisions. And that's what's informed things like the Battlegrounds changes that I mentioned earlier, or the pivots that we've made to the new adaptive difficulty EQs as well. Based on the difficulty, it's because of all the feedback that we got. So it's a fight, absolutely.
Awesome, thanks guys. All right, the next question comes from Maple and Sadness. When designing a champion or fight, how do you decide what debuffs/buffs to implement or invent?
Sure, I mean, I can speak to fights first off, and then pass to Charles maybe for champions. But yeah, for fights, a lot of the time what I'm trying to do is create something that is like interesting and has not been done before with that champ. A lot of the time that means diving into the champion's kit and like investing in stuff that is not usually surfaced. I've used this example up before on like live streams, I think, but Warlock for the EOP fight, specifically, I think that a lot of people don't realize about his interaction with like critical hits while he has his armor up. And I saw that, and I was like, I want to build something around that. How's the best way I can do that? As far as buffs, debuffs, etc. go, it's usually all about building that like core player loop in regards to what we want them to do, like gameplay-wise, but also what we want them to do in terms of the champions they bring, and then building around that. We don't necessarily always start with like a target. Like I'm not going to say, hey, I want White Tiger to be really good at this specific fight. It's more looking at kind of a larger group, and then we can narrow it down from there.
Pass the hot potato mic.
Cool. And when it comes to champions, usually where we start with champion design is we look at like who the champion is and kind of what class that they're intended to be in the game. And that is kind of the lens that we use to decide what sort of buffs and debuffs and other things that they have attached to them. So like, based on their powers in the comics or like, in the films or whatever, that informs like, what they do. Like we can't have Spider-Man shoot fire, for example.
I mean, you could.
Well, yeah, but like we have to kind of align with like their lore, but then also like what is available in that class. Again, each of our different classes in the game have things that they're good and bad at, so they have to kind of have mechanics that align with their class. And then we also sort of have like what are the goals that we're trying to accomplish with like what are the things we want the player to do? What's kind of like the gameplay loop for this character? Where do they kind of see them fitting into the meta? Who do we want them to be strong and weak against? That all of those factors combine to kind of inform how we sort of build a champion out.
Sweet. All right, so this is a controversial question. I like whoever asked it. Thank you for asking it. Any hope of 7-star champions and rank resources in Arena, even if this means no units? Is that controversial?
Do you want to take that one? I guess I can. Yeah, so once again, I will say I cannot speak with authority on the economy. That's Crash's yard, and I don't want to play in it without his permission. But going back to the whole, we're adding a bunch of rewards and haven't really decided all of the places that they can come from yet. So it is possible at this time. Liam, or LF?
Nothing to add on that.
You got it.
Not going here.
You're gonna leave me with this
Yeah?
microphone? Okay.
Definite maybe.
Strong possibly, yeah. But I mean, it's not a bad idea, right? We are adding rewards so that we can add rewards.
Hey, I think we all love more rewards, right? Anybody get anything good during the wheel, from the wheel? I know I did. All right, this question is from someone whose name I cannot read, I'm sorry. Did you ever think this game would get so big?
I've been here for almost 4 years. I'll answer this one. No.
It is crazy how big this game has gotten. Like, I don't think that there was ever the expectation that it would blow up or get as big as it did. And it's constantly like humbling how active and engaged and like passionate the players are. Like it really is.
Anybody else?
I only have a personal anecdote. Initially, this would have been 3 years in, so like 8 years ago, I guess, I initially had applied to this job, or to this company, and had been offered it, but I also got an offer from Microsoft, the Coalition, for Gears of War, and I was like, man, that game is super cool. I'm going to go work on that game. I've never heard of this game. And I would say this game honestly has had a lot stronger longevity in a lot of ways than Gears, and it's been really impressive for me to even come in later and just see the growth, especially from when I started 5.5 years ago. What we had then, I think Abyss had just come out when I started around then. And so to kind of move into that position of doing the new Everest content and learn from that and build on it has been super cool to see.
Thank you for not building a new Abyss. For me personally.
I mean, it's a little different.
Yeah. And I think, I've said a few times in different interviews and stuff today, but, we have an 11-year constant running storyline.
Yeah.
Not even just for Marvel, but for video games in general, that is absurd. The fact that we haven't had to, do a reset, do a multiversal split, do that kind of stuff. We have 11 years of story continually running nonstop every month in a game that keeps growing and changing and participating in this larger universe. And, just every so often there will be a step back moment of that's dumb. They shouldn't let us do that. but here we are continuing to do that until they forcefully stop me and remove me from the building.
Fair. And shout out to all the OGs. Any veterans here in the audience? Any, maybe? Okay, I was going to say, I know there's a couple of you. Come on now. All right, I'm not the only one here. Come on. All right, this is a good question, Alex. What is the timeline and starting focus for reducing game bloat and or smoothing out the overall player experience?
Ooh, that is a question for everyone. And I can say that it's always ongoing, right? It's a focus of ours. We have a whole lot that we want to do to this game, and it's kind of tricky every year that it ages. Two things happen. Number one, the needs, what would constitute meaningful value to add to this game, goes up. And the difficulty of doing anything as the game continues to age, you can ask my niece what happens to people as they age, also goes up. So I don't know if I can actually give a timeline, if there's anything you can think of, but it is a common topic, let's say, a very common heated topic about improving UI, UX around flow, where you find things, find rewards, where do you want to get these catalysts, et cetera, et cetera. Do you want to say anything there?
Yeah. Well, just a plus one. It's a constant ongoing conversation. We're always talking about the different experiences in the game and what is the niche that they're filling as far as the different player types, the different kinds of challenges, the different kind of experience. Again, I think it's sort of difficult to do a timeline, but it is something that we talk about often. Is kind of the entire game ecosystem. How do all these puzzle pieces fit together? It's ongoing.
How many puzzle pieces would MCOC be if it was a puzzle?
It is very big. From my experience, working on PC, we have over 300 screens and modals. It is absolutely ridiculous how big this game is.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of pieces.
How many dimensions? Is 2-dimensional puzzle? 3, 4, 5, 6?
I'll let you go to 3. I'll let you go to 3.
Oh no, 2 is easier. I'd go with a couple 100 million, honestly, in 2.
Just a few puzzle pieces.
Yeah, it's a big spider web, and if you move one little node, everything kind of shits.
That's why masters don't get reworked. No. Kidding. All right. So I don't have anyone here from the balance team. I don't think if I know everybody's roles correctly, but I'll ask this question to see if any of you guys want to take a whack at it. What is a balanced champion, and what is your plan to bring all champions in line with that particular philosophy? If that's a balanced champion question, that's okay, but I wanted to ask it regardless.
I mean, I can give a personal opinion.
Do you want to go? Start.
I mean, I've done champion design.
That's true. Go for it.
Cool. I mean, balanced is a loaded term, frankly. I think if you had a game that was perfectly balanced, that a lot of the time would be boring, because you want to have kind of some of those highs, and that generally is some of those lows. In terms of balanced champion, I'm just going to throw out here Penny Parker is one of my favorite champions that creates an interesting defender challenge that has a skill, gameplay ask, but also an RPG interaction that you can play into to make the fight easier. And then the attacker side, she also plays with some really interesting stuff with juggling power bar and stuff like that. So to me, Penny is kind of one of the champs I look to a lot for in terms of a balanced champion.
I can add maybe a bit more of a philosophical touch there as well, because I am not a balanced champion, but technically they all have to do what I say, which is why I don't say very much. Balance is one of those things, I think, intuitively when we think about it like a table. It's got legs and it's sturdy, but in reality balance is more like a top. You put some energy into it and start spinning, but if you don't keep putting energy into it, somehow it will fall apart. Which makes it a tricky thing, because what a balanced champion was 4 years ago is not what a balanced champion is now. And it's an ever-living, ever-evolving thing. And we are looking at how to, I guess, both do and communicate that better in the future. But I won't sign anybody up for anything here today. But it's also something we're discussing.
Love hearing that. Awesome. All right. So, getting handed a lot of questions. Okay, so the RPG ask of new defensive champions coming out is definitely high, and I believe the feedback has been provided that it's very high. Are there any plans to adjust that based on community reception and feedback?
Kevin, you're the closest person to a champion designer on this panel.
Charles.
Charles.
I can speak to what I know.
Oh, you can start it off.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'd say, like, loosely, yes. I think, I can't speak for the larger meta. That's more Balance's realm. But there are ebbs and flows to defender strength. I think we've maybe ebbed a little far in one direction.
Okay. All right, so, shoot, this might be another balance question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are there any plans to redo the champion attribute system due to attributes and how they are rated changing over time based on community perception?
I don't have a ton of insight into this, but I talk with Neuro about this a lot. Neuro is a balance designer, and I know he's working on some stuff in that regard. That's about all I can say. You got
Pass
more?
the mic down.
Yeah. I think something that, in my opinion, like the purpose of the champion attribute system is to communicate intent, right? We're saying, like, as like a team, this is like, what we kind of sort of feel like the strengths and weaknesses of this particular champion is, as far as, like, ease of use, attacker strength, defender strength, etc. And it's one of those things where, like, we have our intent, like we do our best to hit those things, but the game is huge, and we don't always hit those things. We can't necessarily, like, test for every single piece of content, every single interaction, every single matchup. We do our best, but I think, like, the best way to think about the attribute system is that it's a goalpost, and we try and hit that goalpost, and part of our process is looking at the data and measuring how close we were to hitting it. But I think it's like, what's the word? It's not meant to be gospel, it's more about communicating direction, is I think the way that I would phrase it. Yeah.
It's like guide rails. All right, so this question is about synergies, and I really love this question, so thank you whoever asked this. What is the plan to bring back synergies in regular content? Or is there a plan to bring back synergies in regular content, since we've been seeing a lot of 1v1 fights lately?
I mean, my honest answer is I haven't heard of any explicit reasons, and you definitely want to talk to Niv about that. Champ Daddy's probably going to know more accurately than the rest of us. Yeah, it's not that we have forgotten synergies. Perhaps.
There's so many cool ones.
I want it. Oh, okay, I won't.
No, you're stuck with the mic this time. All right. Has AI been helpful in enhancing how you make and operate MCOC? If you can, please give examples.
I can start. I will say that, like, the best implementation of an AI in a workflow that I've seen here on this project has probably been our community lens tool. So basically the way that works is we have, like, this bot that basically scrubs the forums and again looks at all of the comments that go in and kind of assigns it a sentiment, whether that's a positive one, a negative one, a neutral one, and then sort of, like, aggregates, like, what are the common threads for, like, the various topics that are kind of, like, trending within, like, the forum posts, and then also gives us direct links to go and, like, actually go to the thread and read the thread in person and not just, like, go with the AI summary. And so what that does is it basically, like, helps guide us towards the smoke. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's probably the most useful application of AI I can think of as far as the project goes. Does anybody else have any?
I have thoughts.
Thoughts? Yeah.
Speaking for myself and the art team, it is all handcrafted absurdity. And and I will be dead in the cold, cold ground before I let it touch the narrative of this game. But that's a different type of AI aggregation. Thank you, yay!
Our team don't miss, and there's
Our
a
team
reason for
don't
that.
miss, and I will celebrate. In that terms, also was very happy in the Race Motion comics for we had like behind the scene videos, and I was specific because I'm like, the art is so glossy and people don't understand. Please show the layers so that people can see from sketch to page like how stuff looks. So in that way too, there's also a lot of human celebration in the game outside of that.
The amount of layers in our artwork is horrifying.
It's
like,
genuinely upsetting.
It is just horrifying. That if you think you have a lot of tabs in your computer, you got nothing on these guys.
Loved when you showed it for Shop though.
Oh, it looks so cool, right? But there's so many layers. All right. Are there any ongoing plans to address server stability, particularly BG load times? Got cases of players streaming and having issues, and is that a priority for us?
I should not have this mic right
That's anybody, or maybe the back of the room.
No, we're not going to pick on them. We're not picking on them.
I can't really give an answer to this. This is more on the sort of engineering department. All I can say is that I know they're constantly looking into these issues. It's like everything with MCOC. It's huge and it's a web, but it is something that they are constantly exploring. That's unfortunately all I can say.
Hey, that's A-okay. I don't know is an okay answer, I promise. All right. Is there a reason Spider-Woman wasn't removed from the tactic given her pending change?
Ooh, again, another non-answer. I don't want to speak for the balance team or the thoughts of the designers behind it. But again, as with most things in MCOC, it's never as simple as just, let's just take her out. There are implications, internal and external. We have saga tie-ins now and stuff like that, and then we have player investment, things like that. So it is never as straightforward, really, as let's just do a straight pull or a straight swap. And with a volatile situation like this was, it was a risk to do anything. So,
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I confess I don't know how this applies to how many, but I will ask it anyway because it's a great question. I'm an indie developer. I'm not the question asker. What's your experience building in Unity these days?
designer.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we mostly use Unity. Gosh, I'm trying to tread a line here. We mostly use Unity to load in, for my work at least, to load in like Excel data sheets to test champion attributes. So we like write our code as to what we want a new effect or buff or whatever to do. We load it in through Unity with a data sheet through all of the tools that engineering have built us, and we test it in the fight. We have a bunch of hotkeys that let us do a bunch of different things in the fight, like launch specials right away, change the defender's HP at various levels, whatever you can basically think of for debugging. And that's kind of the I guess dev-facing side of things in terms of using Unity. Joe could speak to. You want to speak to like some of the more
I'll talk to
complex stuff.
This did you say this is from a Unity developer?
It's from a indie game developer.
Indie
Yes.
game developer. Okay. I will offer a little bit of perspective. It's not MCOC related, so I'll be kind of quick, as quick as I can. The first time I ever worked in Unity for a game was like 2012. It's been over a decade. Was it earlier? No, it doesn't matter. Unity is like all game engines. When you have a game that is live for 11 years and you're updating it every month, eventually the engine is basically just something that you hope doesn't change. You have custom fit so many bits and pieces onto it over the years to make sure that it does what you need, whether or not it's supported by developers or not. So it's not even going to be an apples to oranges comparison between like an indie game and an 11-year-old beast that is never resting and always must be fed from a development and production standpoint.
Engine change has never screwed us over.
No,
Definitely
never.
not.
Definitely doesn't complicate AI either. Anyways.
Do you want to add anything, or are we good?
Right.
Okay, all right. That's good. Okay. All right, I think this is coming from some of the announcements that happened yesterday. Will Ascension for 7 stars impact Prestige?
So, everything, names and values are not final. I believe the current plan is yes, but although we are really looking into how much, why, when, all of the details around that, especially as Prestige becomes a more important value than it was before. That is what I will comfortably say right now. And of course, the customary, hey, let's talk to Crash about it.
So more information coming soon on that in the future. As a reminder for all of you who crept in after the panel started, there is paper and pens all along the table. If you guys have questions you do want to ask, please pass them up to the people in the front so they can hand them to me, and we can get those added to the stack. So we're making really good progress, and with great questions. All right, so this one is from Link. What are your thoughts on special relics? Shout out for Jeff the Land Shark as a future special relic, which I agree with. Yes, give us Jeff.
You want to talk about Jeff?
I want to talk about Jeff all day.
Here.
Oh, like in terms of no, I would say so. From my perspective of stuff, I, as a casual player and someone who gets to like poke our team, ask them to do things that takes them several months, and then report back with like, yeah, it's good work. I can say I made you do that. It can be exhausting with the amount of stuff we're already putting out to do a bespoke thing without the intent of having other purpose for the design. So even with like the StatCast and the relics, which look beautiful, I love how all the style on them looks with the texture and the art and that kind of stuff. But like to make a whole champion design and go through the process and get approval and do stuff just to put them as an inanimate object in the game is still a lot of work that could be diverted towards doing that towards a character that will also then be playable. So from my point of view, I can see why I have asked for a specific stat. That's why I grabbed the mic on this one. I've asked. I've been like, hey, if we're just doing StatCast and they don't got to move or animate it, could we maybe do some like special stuff? And then I've been met with exasperated faces and people telling me, yeah, actually, Tyler, I do have to go back to work. Maybe you could go back to your desk right
now. Specifically for the Jeff example, again, that is one of the things that we kind of talked about earlier, where like, quadrupeds are hard. So specifically for Jeff, maybe not. Again, we do have like the Howard the Duck relic that's coming out, and we're going to be keeping an eye on that event, seeing the community feedback, seeing the community engagement, taking that data in, and that'll help inform like whether or not like there's the interest and desire for us to do more of these kind of like one-off event type relics in the future. I think it's a little bit too early to call now, but like Howard's sort of our first attempt at one of these like really special one-off event type relics. So yeah, if you like it or if you hate it, let us know.
You should like it. They're awesome. All right. Will we get a new progression title, or has the Elder EQ replaced the need for progression titles?
Yes. But when and how is something that's still in discussion.
Yes, we'll get new progression titles, or yes, they've been replaced?
Well, yes, they're being discussed. Like we're discussing like what's the next progression title, what will that look like, what are the requirements. It's in discussion right now. I think that's as much as we can share at the moment.
All right, awesome. There was a time when side quests were more challenging with good limited time rewards, when it felt as though the whole community was doing it and helping each other at the same time, like the Dave Bautista challenge. Are we going to do something like that potentially in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd qualify the celebrity challenges as side events in the same way that we look at I guess the meta quests. We have a lot of stuff pop up. We had like the Dark Phoenix quest to Earner. That was kind of an Everesty-ish quest. We might have some stuff coming up in the future that's kind of smaller scale. So we're always looking at stuff like that, especially with tie-ins or interest from outside parties. The difficulty scale of stuff kind of just varies. Like the monthly stuff definitely has a kind of lower bar that we're usually trying to hit, and then our Everest stuff is usually kind of the high bar. So I recognize there's not a ton of mid stuff, and we're kind of aware of that and trying to fill those gaps as we can.
Yeah, those of us with lacking skills need content, please, and thank you. All right, this question comes from Juan Mi. There is a lot of content that is not often used these days in the game, such as variants and old endgame stuff. Are there any plans to reuse or revitalize those with challenges?
Well, I spoke to back issues before. So, short answer, yes. We did the Grandmaster's Gauntlet kind of 7-star re-release this past year. There are other pieces of content we can do similar. We had the Epic of Pain, but we didn't do a full single path of the Epic of Pain at that time like we did for EOP. Is that going to come? I don't know. It could. But also, just in terms of the content we have sitting around, we've done the Korean challenges in the past that encourage people to go back in. We did the whole Deathless challenges in Necropolis. There's always a chance we'll reuse older stuff, and that's generally been in our playbook.
Awesome. Okay. So this might be an engineering question, but I'm going to ask it just in case any of you guys have a perspective on it. It's from Delithius. Has it ever been considered to introduce an automatic cache clear instead of the manual forced close to prevent lag issues? It's okay if none of you can answer it, but I wanted to ask it.
I think I got this one.
Am I correct in that being an engineering focused question? Okay. Sorry, guys. I wanted to make sure I asked it, but that is an engineering focused question. All right. Ooh, Vino, what's the hardest characters or content to code?
Like design or like animation make? Because there's two aspects. I mean, yeah, there's two aspects to it. One is the design, and then the other is like the animations and the effects and stuff. So I guess I'll pass to Charles or Brad to speak to that. Design-wise, I think a lot of the time if it's a very popular character, capturing enough of the essence of that character in their kit to feel like it is, what players want and what players expect. There's obviously like a degree of limitation of how much stuff we can pack in one champion. So I'd say that's the hardest balance in that regard.
I would
You can both answer, I promise. It's okay.
I would say the hardest champions when it comes to like code or adding abilities are ones that actually need new code,
Oh, okay.
right? So whenever we're adding a new mechanic like trigger volumes, for example, obviously those involve new code, whereas a lot of champions involve essentially new data, right? We have little Lego pieces that the designers can put together, and if we don't actually need to tell an engineer, hey, we need your time, then those are going to be some fun.
Yeah. Speaking from experience, Ares was a lot.
Yeah, there's a lamb worth every single second. But, yeah, and you want to talk about quadrupeds for animation?
4 legs are hard.
Yes, incredibly.
But I just want to say that, like, I think probably the most technically challenging, it's the ones that have the most new gameplay mechanics that need to be coded. Those generally tend to be our boss encounters. They generally have the most bespoke, one-off, unique things, and so those are usually the ones that take the most time to bake.
Got it. All right, this question comes from Wade Watts. What is the most challenging aspect of creating champion special attacks? So I'm going to look at Kevin.
Okay, I can speak to it a little bit, I guess.
Just a little bit.
Artist here.
I think for me, yeah, a lot of it is the same sort of like capturing their essence in those specials, but also a lot of it can come from how difficult do you want this special to be? Is it like not dexable at all? Is it a hard dex? That's a lot of like consideration that has to be made pretty early on before the kit has really formed a lot as well, because the animation and like modeling work is getting done very far before the design. So yeah, I think that's kind of it, and that like how do we capture the appropriate difficulty we want for our design of the champion? Well, we haven't really actually been able to build out the champion yet.
All right, awesome. So this one's from Clobs. Are there any plans to add support for community tournaments for battlegrounds, like custom node sets, that sort of thing?
Yeah, same answer as before. It's the kind of thing that we're always sort of exploring and thinking about and having conversations about. No yes or no at this point, but it is something that we are always constantly looking at.
All right. When relics were first introduced, they could interrupt the defender's combo. Was this feature removed, or was it a bug?
Pass that all the way over.
There you go.
Like intended as like far as like a combo interrupt.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure I quite follow that question.
Like when we prototype them at points, even if you were getting hit, you could activate a relic, like a
Oh.
striker.
Yeah. So yeah, like early on, like when we were doing like the relic development, we investigated a couple different types of relics. We investigated ones that basically came in when you do a special attack. We investigated ones that were kind of like a get out of jail free card where you could use them to like interrupt you getting hit in the face. We sort of landed on the one that we have now, which is sort of like a combo extender relic, where like you can kind of use it to like chain onto your combo and then chain off of that. That's kind of where we landed on like the current design of relics. There's the possibility that we may explore other relic types in the future, as far as like mechanically how they work, but no firm commitments at this time.
Got it. All right. So with the introduction of solo raids, is there any chance for a boss selector for like Act 8 and 9 in solo raids? If I asked that question wrong for whoever submitted that, I'm sorry. Just wasn't sure. How
Does it mean? I'm assuming they mean like story bosses,
That's
like how
what
we
I'm
can
assuming,
currently
yes.
fight.
Yeah.
That one's tough. There is a degree of there's a degree of the difficulty that comes from these bosses by the fact that you can't practice them, and I think the beat the boss with the Grandmaster will display what happens if you give people enough time to hone down on one specific fight and master every mechanic. That's not to say it couldn't happen. Like, Act 8's been out for a decent amount of time. People have played through it. Rosters are much stronger. There's a lot less, I guess, concern in that regard. But if I, have my way, at least you won't see Ares in a practicable way for some time.
All right, awesome. The new monthly Epic quest style, being based off a summoner's level, means that someone's account size can cause the difficulty to be harder than their skill. I feel that. Are there any plans to adjust that so the player can tune down the difficulty and keep them from being shut out of the mode?
Yeah, I think we basically announced this. I'm pretty sure we have a post about it. Yeah, that's being worked on. I can't give a firm date right now, but it is being worked on.
Okay. Easy, your handwriting's hard to read. I'm sorry. Is there a plan to bring all of the Summoner Choice Champs that didn't win in the votes into the game? I love that question. Great question.
I can sort of take that.
Speak to it a little bit.
So, when we present a champion in a vote, it's because we have a desire to go and rework them, and more so, like what the vote is about is giving you as players the opportunity to help influence the decision of who we do next. We do want to go and update a number of champions in the game, but again, how many we can get to is limited. Again, just time and resources. There's over 350 champs. It's a lot. But yeah, like we do want to get to them all eventually. But yeah, the votes help you kind of weigh in on which ones you want to see first.
All right, awesome. There are several champions whose class in-game doesn't seem to match their comic origins. Is there a reason this happens, like Quicksilver being science rather than mutant? I was going to say Tyler.
Narratively speaking, the version of Quicksilver that we have within the game was a mutate who was brought forward by the High Evolutionary, who actually gave them their mutations after the fact, and it was not a result of an inherent X gene. As a result, Quicksilver is science and not a mutant, because most mutants in our game are as a result of an activated X gene which was given to them at birth. This seems weird, even though there are versions of Quicksilver that are mutant, and there are versions of Quicksilver that was a High Evolutionary change that was later shown to be an actual mutant, but the current version we have locked in game is canonically accurate to a comic book version made by High Evolutionary. Also, we need some X-Men characters that aren't mutant. All of them are mutant. We need a little bit of class variety, and we found an out.
Sinister could have
There was a narrative question.
I was hoping you would enjoy the narrative
I was so
question.
excited.
Go for it.
I will also say that, like, again, our class wheel isn't necessarily like strictly rigid. There are a number of characters that you could argue could be this class or that class or this class or that class, but we kind of gotta pick a lane. Like so like in some cases, like we choose a class that seems like that's the right fit for them in our game. But like there are characters that could easily fit into a number of classes.
I think an actual really good example of that is the Stellar Forge next year, where we're taking champions and shifting their class, right? Star-Lord is going to scale. It makes sense to some degree, not just tech. Oh yeah, I can't name any of the other ones.
No, you reach out. But the art for them is great.
They are beautiful, and this is why they don't invite me.
That was so fun.
All right, so from Clubs, specifically to Vincent.
Oh, no.
Marvel recently released a series of comics called The Concert of Champions with similar logos. The new kitchen mode is similar in name. Was this originally intended as a collab, or was this a happy coincidence?
So this wasn't an original collab. I did see the comic coming out. I do own it. It is on my shelf upstairs. I do go every Wednesday to the local comic book shop to buy physical media. I am not reimbursed for this media. That's out of my pocket. I'm a fan. But no, and the name came up. We were doing a music-based thing, and I'm like, guys, this is an easy win. We got to call it Concert of Champions. There's no other choice here. We had like backups, but I was just like, that's what it is. It's a concert of champions. Yes, there was no collab particularly between that comic and ours. Otherwise, I would have pushed really hard to have Shark Girl come into our game at the same time for a bit more alignment, or some Luna Snow. But one day, we'll see. I'll push. But yeah, no, it was just happy coincidence. It worked out. I saw the opportunity. A lot of times on this, the phrase "I saw the opportunity" comes up for why I name or do things in this game.
Excellent. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so we have reached the end of our question set. If you saw me put some of the stack down, it's because we already asked your questions. So we got some duplicates. But I would like to end with each of you answering a question you see commonly that relates to your job. So what is something you see asked a lot that you control that you would like to answer for the audience? That you can answer for the audience. I will caveat that.
The question that I get asked most often as a producer is, what does a producer do?
Okay.
And like most of my questions today, I can give a bit of a non-answer because in this particular role, at least, no one day looks the same. I go in every week with a list of things that I want to get done that week, and I end every week with that exact same list still standing there because everything has gotten in the way. You know, live issues, things like that crop up constantly. My job as a producer is kind of to make sure that people, designers, can have a clear runway to do their job. And so I just do basically whatever I can to make sure that happens. And that's pretty much it, yeah.
You keep the wheel turning.
And you do a great
to bring
job.
that fun
Thank you.
back.
I don't know if this is the most asked question about like encounter design stuff, but it's one I've seen in regards to like Everest offerings. Do we work on a schedule? Do we do like short form and then long form, short form and then long form? There is no set schedule. A lot of it is up to what we want to do, what we're inspired to do, and what we're interested in doing. Does that mean there won't be long form again for a while? Can't say. Does that mean long form is coming next year? Also can't say. It's really just kind of up to like what we think would be interesting to try out. Wheel of Fate, thought it'd be interesting to try out. It was interesting to try out. We learn from that, and then we move on to other stuff. Similarly, Coliseum, really interesting way to introduce Everest stuff and other content possibly in the future in a different way that allows more chance to try out. It's similar to the short form Everest we've done, but it's also different in a lot of ways. So it just really depends on kind of how our designers are feeling, but also like how we feel players are feeling. Because the short form stuff I really love doing, but when we do it for an entire year, there's a noticeable burned out feeling of people doing like a fight every 2 weeks basically. Some people might not feel that, but I can promise you there are others who feel that. And so it doesn't really feel sustainable to us to do that year on year on year, which is why we try to mix stuff up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Number one question is, my kid likes to write, how do they do what you do? That's probably the most common. And my answer to that is read a bunch of stuff, particularly trash. Watch bad movies, read terrible stories, and then think about how you would edit them and make them better. Because I find that you learn more from bad stories than good stories. Good stories are inspiring. Good stories are good to have there. They make you feel nice. You'll be a better writer if you watch garbage, in my opinion.
Can confirm.
Yeah. And that being said, every month there's a new story available in Marvel Contest of Champions. Go read it and tell me how I could have done it better. Not to my face. I will collapse. like a tree on the last day of fall. All the leaves are going to fall off that one.
To be nice to Tyler, you can be mean.
Yeah.
You can
It's
tell me what you
close.
think. I wish I had more time to think about this, honestly. But the question that's
Well, he answered it yesterday, so you can pass the mic to him.
no, I want to answer.
All right.
Just, I might be unsatisfied with my own answer. We'll see what comes out of my mouth. I think the most common question that I'm asked is, can we do X, honestly? Or why aren't you doing X? And a lot of it boils down to the whole 11 years of video game. If anyone have worked on software, if you can imagine software that has been growing for 11 years every month, you might understand some of the abject terror that we deal with on a daily basis. And the truth is that, like, yes, we want to do all those things, and it's about the sequencing, as Charles has mentioned, and setting people up to be able to do it. So it's about kind of unlocking a lot of possibilities that we currently have caught up under the rust and calcification of 11 years, if that makes sense. I think that's probably the most common.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
When are you going to fix X bug?
Yes.
That's probably the most frequent. And it's complicated, right? There are some things that are like really easy to fix if they live in data or like sometimes in server code. It's much more challenging for us if like it's living in the client code. We're pumping out a build every single month. We're locking down our builds like months out because again, it takes time to final, it takes time to get through approvals, it takes time to publish. So like, yeah, we're working on like, January, February, like March builds right now already. We're a good chunk of the way in through that. And so like when something comes up, that's a bug. Like we have to look at that in comparison to everything else that's going on. It's often kind of like throwing the track in front of the train as the train is hurtling down the track. We do our best to try and resolve things as quickly as we can, but in some cases, things be complicated, and it does. We have to priority stack everything in the game, all the new stuff that's coming, all the bugs that are coming, the whole thing. So it's a juggling act, but we do hear you, and we do try to get to those as quickly as we reasonably can.
Yeah. As a reminder, make sure you're keeping an eye on the Trello board where we do track all of those for your visibility. So just shout out for that.
I wanted to follow up on what you said and what I said, now that I've had time to think about what I said. I don't want that to sound like an excuse or that I'm asking for sympathy or something, and I realize that it might come across that way to some people. Instead, I just wanted you to know the monster that we are fighting, and know that we are fighting it, basically. That's all.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody, for answering. Let's give these guys a round of applause. They have very well. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending the Dev Q&A panel. That is going to be the end of it. I just want to give you one note before we leave. James, you can cut off here if you want. The mobile to PC panel and the Dev panel have both moved up by a half hour. So they are at 1:30 and 3 o'clock respectively. So if you're planning on attending those, giving you an FYI now. We are doing this so everyone can attend the finals. We don't want to make you miss the finals. So just keep that in mind if you're coming to those panels, and we'll see you guys around.
Okay, guys, welcome back. The panel was absolutely amazing. Like I said, you heard a lot of different responses throughout this. You saw a little bit of the willingness for Kabam to bring more champions in. You saw them admitting that some things have been done wrong, and whereas they can address it. This is going to be one of my perfect opportunities here that I can take a couple moments and say, I learned over this weekend that there were things that I understood in a different way than what they actually were to work. One of the perfect examples of this particular one is the conversation I had after the first panel, where I found out that my concept of the idea that this game is simply going from Kabam to a server, from a server to our phones, is highly incorrect. As a matter of fact, it's going from Kabam to multiple different companies into a funnel that ends up at us. You will hear, you would have heard during this panel, the mention of the optimization engine that they use to run this game. One of the things that I found out about that optimization engine is that one of the reasons that we have something that broke in the game years ago is because of the fact that that engine fixed a bug in it. Now, that was nothing to do with Kabam directly. It affected multiple different games that were on their engine, multiple different things. And the sad thing about it is the way it affected our game is it made it better. But when they fixed the bug, it broke things in our game. And they can't replicate the bug. They can't reinitialize the bug. And they cannot create a new way to get the game to do what they accidentally found a way to get it to do in the first place. So we did lose a few things as far as that goes. But that is a little bit more understanding and something that I wish I would have known a lot sooner so that I could translate and talk about differently with you guys. But that being said, guys, there was lots of things in here. Please go ahead and drop comments. Make sure you drop a like. If you're not subscribed, please do that as well. But as well, leave those comments. This will not be the last time I speak to the Kabam staff. I have ways of getting a hold of several of them directly, and we are talking about a meetup in spring as well. And then, of course, next year, hopefully, with very little reason to think that it won't be, I will be in Vancouver again at Kabam Headquarters next year and able to ask even more questions. So, if as you guys can see, this is just the premise, preambles for a lot of things, and we will get those questions answered. We will get more transparency from Kabam, especially if we're making sure that we're giving input, not just negative, but positive as well. You'll see that mentioned. You saw that mentioned during the panel. So make sure you guys keep that in mind. Occasionally, don't always just grab the pitchforks and the torches and run for Kabam. Occasionally, have that same passion to run up to their door and say, "Guys, you did great," because they do. This game is not as terrible as some of the people like to complain about. And if you really do think that, you don't have to play it. There are several members of our community that are just members of our community because they love the community and they have retired from the game. That is fine. That is perfectly acceptable. But for those of us who do have a passion for this game and continue to want to see it last for a long time, let's remember the way we do that is not only through criticism, but also from complimenting them and reminding them that they have given us something that no other game ever has. I hope everybody had a truly wonderful time going through and listening to this panel, learned some interesting information. I have one more panel left to come out. That will be the character creation panel. Unfortunately, that is the one I showed up to latest. And then, like I said, we'll have some interviews from the weekend coming out. And then we're going to get back to some regular content and stuff. But I wanted to make sure we got this all covered. And another one is in the books. So until the next one, guys, I hope everybody has a great day, a great night, and pulls a God tier champion soon. And until the next one, I love you all, and peace out.